Welcome, everybody. This is Alan with Daily Armour of God. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're all doing well. This is reading the Old Testament in 150 days. We're on day 77. And today we'll be reading through 2 Kings, starting with chapter 19 and verse 1. And it came to pass when King Hezekiah heard it, that he rent his clothes, and covered himself with sackcloth, and went into the house of the Lord. And he sent Eliakim, which was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and the elders of the priests, covered with sackcloth, to Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz. And they said unto him, Thus saith Hezekiah, This day is a day of trouble, and of rebuke, and blasphemy, for the children are come to the birth, and there is not strength to bring forth. It may be that the Lord thy God will hear all the words of Rabshakeh, whom the king of Assyria his master hath sent to reproach the living God, and will reprove the words which the Lord thy God hath heard. Wherefore lift up thy prayer for the remnant that are left. So, remember yesterday where we left off that the king of Assyria sent his servant to Jerusalem, and basically saying, to sum up what he said, he was saying, how can your God save you from my hand? None of the other people's gods saved them. So how can God, your God, save you? And so basically tell him just to give up and not to fight him. And we're going to see what happens when somebody talks about God in that manner. So the servants of King Hezekiah came to Isaiah, and Isaiah said unto them, Thus shall ye say to your master, Thus saith the Lord, Be not afraid of the words which thou hast heard, with which the servants of the king of Assyria have blasphemed me. Behold, I will send a blast upon him, and he shall hear a rumor, and shall return to his own land, and I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land. So Rabshakeh returned and found the king of Assyria warring against Libnah, for he had heard that he was departed from Lachish. And when he heard say of Tirhakah, king of Ethiopia, behold, he is come out to fight against thee, he sent messengers again unto Hezekiah, saying, Thus shall ye speak to Hezekiah, king of Judah, saying, Let not thy God in whom thou trustest deceive thee, saying, Jerusalem shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria. Behold, thou hast heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all thy lands, by destroying them utterly. And shalt thou be delivered? Have the gods of the nations delivered them which my fathers have destroyed, as Gozan and Harad and Rezeph and the children of Eden, which were in Thelasar? Where is the king of Hamath, and the king of Arphad, and the king of the city of Sepharvaim, of Hena and Ivah? And Hezekiah received the letter of the hand of the messengers, and read it. And Hezekiah went up into the house of the Lord, and spread it before the Lord. And Hezekiah prayed before the Lord, and said, O Lord God of Israel, which dwellest between the cherubims, thou art the God, even thou alone, of all the kingdoms of the earth. Thou hast made heaven and earth. Lord, bow down thine ear and hear. Open thine eyes and see, and hear the words of Sennacherib, which hath sent him to reproach the living God. Of a truth, Lord, the kings of Assyria have destroyed the nations and their lands, and have cast their gods into the fire. For they were no gods, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone. Therefore they have destroyed them. Now therefore, O Lord our God, I beseech thee, save thou us out of his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that thou art the Lord God, even thou only. Then Isaiah the son of Amoz sent to Hezekiah, saying, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, That which thou hast prayed to me against Sennacherib king of Assyria I have heard. This is the word that the Lord hath spoken concerning him. The virgin, the daughter of Zion, hath despised thee, and laughed thee to scorn. The daughter of Jerusalem hath shaken her head at thee. Whom hast thou reproached and blasphemed? And against whom hast thou exalted thy voice, and lifted up thine eyes on high, even against the Holy One of Israel? But thy messengers thou hast reproached the Lord, and hast said, With the multitude of my chariots I am come up to the height of the mountains, to the sides of Lebanon, and I will cut down the tall cedar trees thereof, and the choice fir trees thereof, and I will enter into the lodgings of his borders, and into the forest of his Carmel. I have digged and drunk strange waters, and with the sole of my feet have I dried up all the rivers of besieged places. Hast thou not heard long ago how I have done it, and of ancient times that I have formed it? Now I have brought to pass that thou shouldest be to lay waste fenced cities into ruinous heaps. Therefore their inhabitants were of small power. They were dismayed and confounded. They were as the grass of the field, and as the green herb, as the grass on the housetops, and as the corn blasted before it be grown up. But I know thy abode, and thy going out, and thy coming in, thy rage against me, because thy rage against me, and thy tumult has come up into mine ears. Therefore I will put my hook in thy nose, and my bridle in thy lips, and I will turn thee back the way which thou camest. And this shall be a sign unto thee: ye shall eat this year such things as grow of themselves, and in the second year that which springeth of the same, and in the third year sow ye, and reap, and plant vineyards, and eat the fruits thereof. And the remnant that is escaped of the house of Judah shall yet again take root downward, and bear fruit upward. For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and they that escape out of Mount Zion. The zeal of the Lord of hosts shall do this. Therefore thus saith the Lord concerning the king of Assyria: he shall not come into the city, nor shoot an arrow at thee, nor come before it with a shield, nor cast a bank against it. By the way that he came, by the same shall he return, and shall not come into this city, saith the Lord. For I will defend this city, to save it for mine own sake, and for my servant David's sake. And it came to pass that night that the angel of the Lord went out and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 165,000. So 165,000 total. 85,000. That is quite a lot. But this is God's strong hand. So 185,000 people. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. So Sennacherib king of Assyria departed and went and returned and dwelt at Nineveh. And it came to pass, as he was worshipping in the house of Nisroch his god, that Adramelech and Sharezer his son smote him with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Armenia, and Esarhaddon his son reigned in his stead. 2 Kings 20. In those days was Hezekiah sick unto death, and the prophet Isaiah the son of Amoz came to him, and said it unto him: Thus saith the Lord, set thine house in order, for thou shalt die and not live. And he turned his face to the wall, and prayed unto the Lord, saying, I beseech thee, O Lord, remember how that I have walked before thee in truth, and with a perfect heart, and have done that which is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept sore. And it came to pass, afore Isaiah was gone out into the middle of the court, that the word of the Lord came to him, saying, Turn again and tell Hezekiah, the captain of my people, Thus saith the Lord, the God of David, thy father, I have heard thy prayer, I have seen thy tears. Behold, I will heal thee. On the third day thou shalt go up into the house of the Lord. And I will add unto thy days 15 years, and I will deliver thee and the city out of the hand of the king of Assyria, and I will defend this city for mine own sake, and for my servant David's sake. And Isaiah said, Take a lump of figs. And they took and laid it on the boil, and he recovered. And Hezekiah said unto Isaiah, What shall be the sign that the Lord will hear me, and that I shall go up into the house of the Lord the third day? And Isaiah said, The sign shalt thou have of the Lord, that the Lord will do the thing that he hath spoken. Shall the shadow go forward 10 degrees, or go back 10 degrees? And Hezekiah answered, It is a light thing for the shadow to go down 10 degrees, nay, but let the shadow return backward 10 degrees. And Isaiah the prophet cried unto the Lord, and he brought the shadow 10 degrees backward, by which it had gone down in the dial of Ahaz. At that time Berodachbaladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and a present unto Hezekiah, for he had heard that Hezekiah had been sick. So here we go with things. Well, this whole time things are falling into place, but this is like one of the main catalysts of the downfall of Jerusalem. Hezekiah hearkened unto them, and showed them all the house of his precious things, the silver and the gold, and the spices, and the precious ointment, and all the house of his armor, and all that was found in his treasures. There is nothing in his house, nor in all his dominion, that Hezekiah showed them not. Then came Isaiah the prophet unto King Hezekiah, and said unto him, What said these men, and from whence came they unto thee? And Hezekiah said, They are come from a far country, even from Babylon. And he said, What have they seen in thy house? And Hezekiah answered, All the things that are in mine house have they seen. There is nothing among my treasures that I have not showed them. And Isaiah said unto Hezekiah, Hear the word of the Lord. Behold, the days come, that all that is in thine house, and that which thy fathers have laid up in store unto this day, shall be carried into Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith the Lord. And of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. Then said Hezekiah unto Isaiah, Good is the word of the Lord which thou hast spoken. And he said, It is not good, if peace and truth be in my days. And the rest of the acts of Hezekiah and all his might, and how he made a pool and a conduit and brought the water into the city, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Hezekiah slept with his fathers, and Manasseh his son reigned in his stead. So yeah, the catalyst being him showing all the treasures to the king of Babylon's servants. They go back, report what they saw. And years later, the king of Babylon comes again and takes a bunch of cities and eventually takes Jerusalem and everything, all the treasures, and basically destroys the temple of God. So, not saying it wouldn't have happened if he didn't show them, but it definitely was a catalyst to them coming years later. And, Hezekiah's children's children go into captivity and become eunuchs, which is, yeah. Anyway, 2 Kings 21. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 50 and 5 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hephzibah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, after the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out before the children of Israel. For he built up again the high places which Hezekiah his father had destroyed, and he reared up altars for Baal, and made a grove, as did Ahab king of Israel, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served them. And he built altars in the house of the Lord, which the Lord said, In Jerusalem will I put my name. And he built altars for all the host of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. And he made his son pass through the fire, and observed times, and used enchantments, and dealt with familiar spirits and wizards. He wrought much wickedness in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. And he set a graven image of the grove that he had made in the house, of which the Lord said to David and to Solomon his son, In this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, will I put my name forever. Neither will I make the feet of Israel move any more out of the land which I gave their fathers, only if they will observe to do according to all that I have commanded them, and according to all the law that my servant Moses commanded them. But they hearkened not. And Manasseh seduced them to do more evil than the nations whom the Lord destroyed before the children of Israel. I've talked about this before, how there was a verse in the Bible that says the children of Israel, at this point in time it was the children of the kingdom of Judah, but they're still part of Israel, did worse. It says more evil than did the nations who were before them. The nations, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hittites, all the ites, before they even got into the land. These people were doing hideous abominations. And we find out more than 400 years later that the children of Israel are doing worse than the original inhabitants of the land. Worse. More evil. It's kind of hard to believe, because it's like, how much more evil can they get? But, the Bible does give us a little bit of what he was doing, the previous verses. Did all those disgusting abominations, enchantments, passing your children through the fire, worshiping Baal, which is Satan, all this other crap. They did worse than the original inhabitants of the land. Yeah, it's almost crazy to think about, but they did. And the Lord spake by his servants the prophets, saying, Because Manasseh king of Judah hath done these abominations, and hath done wickedly above all that the Amorites did. So here again it's repeated. Wickedly above all that the Amorites did, which were before him, and hath made Judah also to sin with his idols. Therefore thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Behold, I am bringing such evil upon Jerusalem and Judah, that whosoever heareth of it, both his ears shall tingle. And I will stretch over Jerusalem the line of Samaria, and the plummet of the house of Ahab, and I will wipe Jerusalem as a man wipeth a dish, wiping it and turning it upside down. And I will forsake the remnant of mine inheritance, and deliver them into the hand of their enemies, and they shall become a prey and a spoil to all their enemies, because they have done that which was evil in my sight, and provoked me to anger, since the day their fathers came forth out of Egypt, even unto this day. So it's a declaration from God, prophecy also, that God's had enough at this point. They will pay dearly for this. And already at this point in time in history, the children of the Israel, kingdom of Israel, are already taken away. Pretty much all that's left are a few cities in Judah and Jerusalem. And this is the final judgment. God is sending the Babylonians, and they will completely wipe everyone out. Wipe out either through the sword, through a plague, or through taking him captive. So, and that's exactly what happens. Moreover, Manasseh shed innocent blood very much, till he had filled Jerusalem from one end to another, beside his sin wherewith he made Judah to sin, in doing that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. Now the rest of the acts of Manasseh, and all that he did, and his sin that he sinned, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Manasseh slept with his fathers, and was buried in the garden of his own house, in the garden of Uzzah, and Ammon his son reigned in his stead. Ammon was 22 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Meshullemeth, the daughter of Haraz of Jotbah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, as his father Manasseh did. And he walked in all the way that his father walked in, and served the idols that his father served, and worshipped them. And he forsook the Lord God of his fathers, and walked not in the way of the Lord. And the servants of Ammon conspired against him, and slew the king in his own house. Do you see what's happening here? Now we're going back to familiar verses when we were reading about the kings of Israel, the kingdom of Israel. What happened with all those kings? All those kings were evil. And what happened? Lots of murder and conniving and conspiring, and people slaying the king. And we see this now happening in Judah. The kingdom of Judah is happening again. Because basically, there are no more good kings up until the time they're carried away captive to Babylon. So they're becoming exactly like the kingdom of Israel, which Israel was brought to desolation, the people taken captive and or killed. And now it's going the same way, right? We see conspiracy in Judah now. And the people of the land slew all them that had conspired against King Ammon, and the people of the land made Josiah his son king in his stead. Now the rest of the acts of Ammon, and which he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And he was buried in his sepulchre in the garden of Uzzah, and Josiah his son reigned in his stead. 2 Kings 22. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jediah, daughter of Adiah of Boskath. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. Okay, so we have another good king. And walked in all the way of David his father, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. And it came to pass in the 18th year of King Josiah that the king sent Shaphan the son of Azaliah, the son of Meshullam, the scribe, to the house of the Lord, saying, Go up to Hilkiah the high priest, that he may sum the silver which is brought into the house of the Lord, which the keepers of the door have gathered of the people. And let them deliver it into the hand of the doers of the work that have the oversight of the house of the Lord. And let them give it to the doers of the work which is in the house of the Lord, to repair the breaches thereof, unto carpenters and builders and masons, and to buy timber and hewn stone to repair the house. Howbeit there was no reckoning made with them of the money that was delivered into their hand, because they dealt faithfully. And Hilkiah the high priest said unto Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. And Hilkiah gave the book to Shaphan, and he read it. And Shaphan the scribe came to the king, and brought the king word again, and said, Thy servants have gathered the money that was found in the house, and have delivered it into the hand of them that do the work, that have the oversight of the house of the Lord. And Shaphan the scribe showed the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest hath delivered me a book. And Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the king had heard the words of the book of the law, that he rent his clothes. And the king commanded Hilkiah the priest, and Ahikam the son of Shaphan, and Achbor the son of Micaiah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Asaiah, a servant of the king, saying, Go ye inquire of the Lord for me, and for the people, and for all Judah, concerning the words of this book that is found. For great is the wrath of the Lord that is kindled against us. So what he read, this is interesting. He read basically everything they have up to this point. So he read Moses, and the reason why he rent his clothes, tore his clothes, is because he probably read what we read, where back in Moses' day, God warned Moses to warn the children of Israel what would happen if they did not follow him. Because even way back, over 400 years ago, Moses gave them warnings. Even God himself gave them multiple warnings, saying, this exact thing is coming. Right? We see prophecy about to be fulfilled, a coming destruction because they did not follow in God's ways. And that's what he read. And that's why he got so, upset. Because he found out that, yes, desolation is coming. And so he's asking to inquire of the Lord. Like, are we going to see destruction? So great is the wrath of the Lord that is kindled against us, because our fathers have not hearkened unto the words of this book, to do according unto all that is written concerning us. So Hilkiah the priest, and Ahikam, and Achbor, and Shaphan, and Isaiah went unto Huldah the prophetess, the wife of Shallum the son of Tikvah, the son of Harhas, keeper of the wardrobe. Now she dwelt in Jerusalem in the college, and they communed with her. And she said unto them, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Tell the man that sent you to me, Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will bring evil upon this place, and upon the inhabitants thereof, even all the words of the book which the king of Judah hath read, because they have forsaken me, and burned incense unto other gods, that they may provoke me to anger with all the works of their hands. Therefore my wrath shall be kindled against this place, and shall not be quenched. But to the king of Judah, which sent you, sent you to inquire of the Lord, thus shall ye say to him, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, as touching the words which thou hast heard, because thine heart was tender, and thou hast humbled thyself before the Lord, when thou heardest what I spake against this place, and against the inhabitants thereof, that they should become a desolation and a curse, and hast rent thy clothes and wept before me. I also have heard thee, saith the Lord. I love this verse because it just shows that God does hear us. It's fact. God hears us. He knows our hearts, and he knows what we do. So sometimes we may think it's not, that what we do goes unnoticed. God hears us, and that we've already seen what he did to Hezekiah, King Hezekiah. He wept before the Lord, humbled himself, and God gave him 15 more years to live. All right, and that's just one example. What about the other example where the king served, I forget the name, he served the Lord faithfully, and God was like, I will not you will not see destruction in your lifetime. So he had mercy on him, saying that you won't see all this evil because you followed me faithfully. We see it time and time again. God responds to those who are humbling themselves and those who are crying out to him. It's just a great example that God does hear us. And here we see again what God says to the king now, another king. Behold, therefore, I will gather thee unto thy fathers, and thou shalt be gathered into thy grave in peace, and thine eyes shall not see all the evil which I will bring upon this place. And they brought the king word again. So we see this, God having mercy. God's like, yes, my destruction, my anger will not be quenched. But because this king did all this, he humbled himself. He wanted to make a change. He followed the Lord. God saw that. God heard him. And he's like, you know what? I will not let you see the evil that's going to come. So it won't be in his generation. It'll be in the next one. The next couple ones, actually. But he won't see it because he's one of the last good kings of Judah. So his efforts were not in vain. God saw it and God gave mercy, because God could have sent the Babylonians then, but he came to God and cried before God because he genuinely wanted to do what was right. So I just think that's awesome. Psalm 77. To the chief musician upon Jeduthun, a psalm of Asaph. I cried unto the Lord God with my voice, even unto God with my voice, and he gave ear unto me. This verse right here is very relevant to what we were just talking about. This king, he cried before the Lord. He wept, tore his clothes, humbled himself. And guess what? God heard him. God hears us. We just have to have the right mindset and the right heart, the right state of being, and not be prideful and not be. We need to humble ourselves. How many times the Bible talks about humbling yourself before the Lord? So many times, right? So many times it says, remain humble, because God will humble the proud, and you don't want to be humbled by God. I did a Bible study about that very thing, about pride. God always, always humbles you if you are boasting, if you are prideful. So that's why the Bible talks many times saying to humble yourself before the Lord. In the day of my trouble I sought the Lord. My sore ran in the night and ceased not. My soul refused to be comforted. I remembered God and was troubled. I complained and my spirit was overwhelmed. Selah. Thou holdest mine eyes waking. I am so troubled that I cannot speak. I have considered the days of old, the years of ancient times. I call to remembrance my song in the night. I commune with mine own heart, and my spirit made diligent search. Will the Lord cast off forever, and will he be favorable no more? Is his mercy clean gone forever? Doth his promise fail forevermore? Hath God forgotten to be gracious? Hath he in anger shut up his tender mercies? Selah. And I said, this is my infirmity, but I will remember the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember thy wonders of old. I will meditate also of all thy work, and talk of all of thy doings. Thy way, O God, is in the sanctuary. Who is so great a God as our God? Thou art the God that doest wonders. Thou hast declared thy strength among the people. Thou hast with thine arm redeemed thy people, the sons of Jacob and Joseph. Selah. The waters saw thee, O God, the waters saw thee. They were afraid. The depths also were troubled. The clouds poured out water, the sky sent out a sound. Thine arrows also went abroad. The voice of thy thunder was in the heaven. The lightnings lightened the world. The earth trembled and shook. Thy way is in the sea, and thy path in the great waters, and thy footsteps are not known. Thou leddest thy people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. So, these are great verses because, this is a very human psalm. All psalms are, but if you think about it, I think we've all felt like this at times. So he's not questioning God. He's pouring out his heart in these verses, right? And this is a very human thing. Will the Lord cast off forever? Will he be favorable no more? Is his mercy gone? Does his promises fail? It's more questions that come up in our minds rather than thinking those. They're the questions when we're going through something. These are questions that pop up. So these are real things, real human emotion going on here in these verses. But what does he do? He remembers all God's wonders. He remembers. And that's also a good reminder when we're going through this. What should we do when we're going through whatever it is? Trials, tribulations, sicknesses, diseases, whatever it may be, temptations. We remember also. And this is why it's important to be in the Word daily so we can remember God's words, Bible verses. That's how we can remember. And that will also help us through whatever it is we're going through because we have God's promises in our mind, God's words in our mind and in our heart. So we can't really do that well if we're not in the Word daily. So it's just more proof that we need to be in the Word daily. So that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you all have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're at. Remember to put God first in everything you do. Have faith in Him, trust in Him, wait upon Him, and hope in Him. And you'll never be sorry. God willing. We'll see you tomorrow with more of this Bible reading plan. So, thanks again. Take care and God bless.